Welcome to another episode of the Inner Edison Podcast. I'm your host, Ed Parcaut, and today I sit down with Aram Street. He's an entrepreneur and founder of Lex Clean. He's going to share his unconventional journey from household manager to business owner, the challenges he faced, and the insights on growing a service business by finding your unique niche. Join us for inspiring conversation about resilience, reinvention, and entrepreneurial growth. Aram Street, thank you so much for coming on the Inner Edison Podcast. I appreciate you being here today.
Thanks, Ed. It's good to be here. I appreciate it.
All right. So not everybody's going to know who you are. How did you become an entrepreneur? Let's just start with that.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, was it something you always wanted to do? You have a bunch of family in it, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I was in a career for 8 years as a young adult coming into adulthood. And when that ended in April of 2020, it actually came about because I was terminated. So my position, I was fired, but I knew I was going to be fired for almost a full year before it happened. So it's a very unique experience, very interesting type of thing going on there. So for that year,
were you leading waiting to get caught, or?
Yeah. I was just, didn't know when they were going to find out. No, actually, so I worked as what's called a household manager in the U.S. They'd call it a butler anywhere else across the world. But, North Americans, we like our own terms for our own things. So a household manager is a large estate, big horse farm. And I'm in Lexington, Kentucky. And these jobs, like this profession, just does not exist in a large quantity here. It's a California, New York, parts of Florida type of position. So to get my type of role filled is very, very difficult. I sort of tripped into it. And so about 7 years in, I knew it's based on some conversation I had with my employer, he was not wanting to pay me anymore and was wanting me to, kind of get out. But he just couldn't find anybody to replace me. So I ended up hiring my own replacement from a friend that I knew out of state, trained her for the job. And then once she was settled, then he was like, okay, now you can go. And then he fired me. So I knew it was going to happen. So I was like pretty sure he didn't want me to be there long-term anymore. So for that year leading up to it, I interviewed at a bunch of similar positions across the U.S. and my wife and I had started reading Robert Kiyosaki and some other authors like that. But it was really the Cashflow Quadrant by Kiyosaki that got us in the mindset of thinking, hey, maybe just trading time for, a set amount of dollars at the end of the week is not what we want to do long term. And so it was already starting to, process, and we were thinking this way. And then the moment of kind of getting like a baby bird, like kicked out of the nest and having to fly, I was like, well, we didn't want to take another job in this field. And now that I'm out, I'm going to have to hit, run with my feet on the ground as we're rolling here. And that's how we got started. So I started a cleaning company back then because I could build some very unique branding around my high level experience in household management. That was something that's, I actually don't know any other cleaning companies. And I know quite a few at this point all over the US, but I didn't know anybody that had that background that I had. So I had like kind of a unique proposition there, kind of a cool story.
I have a question.
That's how I got into it.
Yeah. Yep. So what was the unique preference? Because I'm not, I'm in Modesto, California. We don't have you.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
you'd have to go to the Bay or, you know what I mean? And
Sure. Yeah. So it's a very private service is kind of or domestic private service is sort of the category it's known as. You just have to either, be in the ultra high net worth category or get into that profession because somebody that you knew. It's very, very not well advertised. And once I was hired in and they sent me to an academy in Toronto, Ontario. So I actually became certified through an international academy there in butlering. So
what does that entail? Just so people know, what is butler?
Yeah.
I mean, some people have seen Mr. Deeds,
sure.
Things, but what does it really entail?
It can entail anything and everything that you have seen and a lot of stuff you haven't seen. It just depends on the family that you're working for. Every single family might use the term butler. They might use household manager. They might use estate manager. They will interchange the terms, but they'll build a job description around their individual needs. So in my particular instance, the principals that I was working for, it was just a man and his wife, and they lived in Florida 6 months. They lived in Lexington for 6 months, and they had a beautiful, wonderful home they constructed on a horse farm. but it was overall fairly low key. They didn't entertain a lot. A lot of times in this category, you have people throwing parties of 200-300 people every weekend, right? That's a huge process, a lot of event management. I was fortunate to not be in a situation where we had to do a lot of event stuff. So my particular role was overseeing the house itself, contracting work, all of the housekeeping that got accomplished, any mechanical needs, some of the exterior properties. So it was basically like the go-to man for anything that needed to happen concerning the property itself.
Especially when they're not there 6 months out of the year.
Yep. 6 months of the year. Yeah. They're in Florida for the winter. And we were doing a lot of heavier stuff, a lot of work, a lot of renovations, anything like that, which we try to schedule during the time that they're gone, obviously. So it's just a lot of, it's the things that you and I would pay someone else to do for us if we had copious amounts of cash, so we don't have to worry about it. We could just offload that. So, yeah.
But it's all the stuff that would happen on a house that needs to be handled. Instead of you handling it, you have one person to oversee it and be responsible for all those things.
Yep. Something like you could think of like a personal project manager for your life, I guess.
Well, because I have a project manager for all the stuff I do for all my websites and everything else. So with what I have done and everything I'm doing, they just oversee the people we oversee that are, that are hired for those.
Yep.
Because you don't have the time to handle all that stuff.
Right.
So with that background, what's the difference in how do you set your company apart from other cleaning services out there?
Sure. So a good percentage of what a household manager would do, a good part of what they're overseeing is the housekeeping itself, right? These are ultra high net worth clients who their house wasn't clean because it got dirty. It was just never dirty. It was just always kept to an extremely high standard. And so in my training at the Charles McPherson Academy in Toronto, housekeeping was just a very, very, very high skill set at a level that most people probably don't even think about. So when I started the cleaning company, I could build a brand around that experience that I had, that level of training, which was service in like the best of the best settings you could find. So that was, a lot of people can clean. A lot of people can clean very, very well. Very few people that even start a cleaning company have that degree of experience or training in that particular setting. So that was what kind of helped us set apart. And I'd already built a very good network even in that field with all the different contractors, all the different trades, and all the, the designers, everybody that still operated at a pretty high level for these clients. So I was able to just kind of carry over into that and utilize that network and the experience that I had with people that I was very, very close to in the industry. So it was just I started the cleaning company because it was a logical decision at that point in time. It wasn't so much a passion project. It wasn't like, oh yes, I want to have a huge national chain of, cleaning franchises. It was just, look, this makes sense. I know I can get to profitability very, very quickly with this because I have a network here and I have a lot of, experience. Maybe I would prefer to drive fast cars, as something that makes money, but I don't know how to do that right now and make a lot of money. So I just went with something that made a lot of sense and try to keep it simple.
And so you started that in 2020?
2020 is when it got started. It was residential for the first year and a half or so. And then we sort of accidentally, again, got into the commercial market. And I found out there's a good deal more to be made in that over the long term. And so that's where we positioned most of our growth since then. And today, that's really where a lot of our work is. But since that time, I have been part of a number of other ventures here and there, along with my wife.
I'd stay here for a second.
Yeah. No, you're
good. You have a background in what you started a lot, and that's something. And you said it wasn't a passion project for you, but usually when you start a company and you do stuff, that is what you really want to do, and that helps you grow. Build that company. I'm in mortgage. I'm a veteran. I do a lot for veterans with the VA loan and everything because that's one, we connect real well. I'm also a veteran and we're great with business because we have our training for the military. So, but that's easy for me. For other people, it's not. So when you're setting up this company to clean, you said residential, did you have a standard like I'm sorry, we can't take you on unless we do this many times every week or this or that? I mean, was there a certain standard that you created that set you apart from everywhere else? I'm just trying to understand how you did that.
Yeah, for sure. So it got there. I think the principle that we came out of the gate with, and this is true for a lot of businesses starting out, is you want to have a unique selling proposition to make yourself differentiated in the markets. But most of the time, your funnel is going to be a lot broader when you get started, because the goal is to be cash flow positive, like everything, right? Like you can't run it into the ground eternally. You've actually got to make money at some point. So for us, it was like, we're going to accept probably a lot more customers than we would initially, like down the road, like to have in terms of our quality. And then as we got further and further along, developed a good reputation, we were able to start turning away maybe some clients that didn't present enough of a volume for us. But starting out, we definitely had a wider funnel, but the uniqueness was nobody knows how to do this as well as we do. And if quality at this level is a big concern of yours and the price is not the number one thing that you're trying to X out of the equation, then we're the one and only call. So that was easy to set up and easy to understand right out of the gate. And then, at the point that we are now, we have the ability to quote out contracts that we like, and then we might get called for some that we maybe aren't too keen on. I very rarely won't quote a project. I'm probably going to quote just about anything that I get asked to quote, but there are some that we'll price ourselves out of for sure. So,
well, I mean, a friend of mine used to say, you want to make more money, double your price.
Yeah.
Because then you get, and it's less of a headache once you got rid of the people who don't want to pay.
That's right.
Yeah. And people don't understand that. People are afraid, I don't want to do it because they might not, you have to, you got to make, that's like, even with what I do, I'm not the cheapest in town. I don't want to be the cheapest in town because there's headaches with that.
Mm-hmm.
I found
I don't know, who was it that said, if you gain a customer by price, you'll inevitably lose that same customer by price at some point, right? Like if that is the mile marker for you, they will come in and then they will leave when your competition saves them a few dollars. So it's a very bad metric.
And that's the same with employees and everybody else, payment and how they're doing, how they come on. But it's totally, it's that price point. It's like people go, well, I don't care if you shop me. This is where I'm at. Yeah. And you're not going to get, if you go somewhere else, you're not going to get the knowledge that I have. And the fact that I've written a book, Financial Freedom, Building Personal Wealth. I was in a documentary about real estate and finance. Not many people, I think I'm the only one in the country who could say that as a mortgage broker.
Yeah.
And then, I do live radio here locally and have 3 other podcasts. So you get a lot of knowledge by using me for what we're trying to do. And that's the same thing that with you having that certificate that you pass, that you could say, okay, I know how to make sure your house is clean, your company, because this is where my training's from. When you first started, did you clean?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. It was starting out, I was at everything. And again, this is just the principle of scale. My goal was, I want to be profitable rather than out of the equation to begin with. And so we were profitable early because I don't have to worry about, always subbing myself out. Even today, I'll still come into projects that I feel need a little bit more oversight. We actually just quoted a project. Again, we don't do a lot in residential, but we're starting a new potential partnership with a company that does a lot of mold remediation, and we would come in and kind of back in and clean for them. But that is a very, very high level of taking everything out of cabinets, everything off of bookshelves, individually cleaning everything. It's very, very detailed work. So for stuff like that, I'm going to come in with the crew and be like, hey, this is we're doing something a little differently here, right? This is a high level operation that we're not going to be in a standard situation. So I'm still as involved as I need to be to move the needle for new things that have come into the business. But starting out, I was cleaning everything with everybody. So,
Well, because something like what you just talked about with that mold, but that'd be like smoke also. The smoke into everything. That if there when there was a fire, even if the fire's in the garage or far away, that smoke everything. People, luckily some insurance pay for that, so you can actually do everything you need, and some don't because they didn't keep the insurance. But we'll move on from there. So you've been doing this. How long you been running this company? It's 2020, so or about 5 years.
A little over 5 years. Yeah.
Through this process, I'm sure you've had some learning experiences that we usually call, So what did you learn that you want to tell people that, hey, this, because people need to understand you're going to have failures along the way, and learning from those are so important. If you haven't had any failures, you're not pushing the envelope.
Oh yeah, definitely. So in regards to Lex Clean, I think one of the most notable things that was very difficult for me to adjust to and understand was the transition from residential into commercial work. Because when you're running a residential cleaning company, you're billing all of your clients due on receipt. Those are just very standard terms. They're going to pay the same day you deliver the work. And so your cash flow is not really a real consideration, right? Money is coming in about the same rate you're taking it out. So it's fine. That's all flowing well. When you get to commercial, and particularly where we thrive now, which is manufacturing, production, distribution facilities, you now have a corporate client, and they don't pay anything the day that you bill them. They pay net 30 if you're on good terms, and longer than that if you're brand new. And so the thing about that obviously is when you have employees, they are not going to be waiting for 60 or 90 days to get their paychecks. You're still paying them all the way along. So that cash flow adjustment was a big learning curve, and I hadn't done it yet. So we got into it. We were almost, not entirely, but almost given a pretty large contract. Our first commercial contract was like a pretty healthy size that just a friend that I knew worked at the plant, and it's like, hey, our company's on the way out. I know you do great work. Come bid this. So we did. I bid actually more than I thought was even reasonable because I really wanted to get off my back. I didn't want to be in that line of work. And then he's like, sure, price looks great. I thought, great, we're going to make a lot of money. This is awesome. And that whole process, I had to learn like over the next several months what cash flow needs to look like when you are transitioning to that sector. And it's very, very different. And I didn't have anybody at that time who was in my place a bit like in the cleaning industry that I could really speak to at a high level. I do now. A lot of resources out there. And I really appreciate mentorship. I've had really great mentors in my life for a number of different things, but I just didn't have anybody in this space particularly that was like, hey, I've already done this. Here's what we need to look out for. So what I tell people now, and I've coached a number of people who are in cleaning, and if they're looking in the commercial, I tell them, look, there's a lot more money to be made here. You just have to understand the balance is different. And if you're not used to looking at your cash flow in a 4 to 6 month outlook, and it's very much week to week, that has got to shift very, very quickly. And you're going to have to plan for things very, very differently. So that wasn't just an easy one for us. That took a lot of learning for sure.
Yeah. And that's what people don't understand with companies. And it's not that they just, they deal with their cash flow. And if you don't bark enough, you're not going to get paid sometimes. Or if you're new, they do it for a reason. The more cash they keep, the better they run. And that's how they do their business. It's all about them, not about you. And I try to explain that to people. It's, some people are going through some stuff with somebody. I'm like, you got to do what's best for you because that company is going to do what's best for them, period.
Right.
Because that's how you have to do. Yes, we're supposed to be there for our clients, help them out, but you have to do what's best for your company also. Otherwise, you won't be. Yeah, and that's and I tell people it's the same thing. When I worked for a guy, I thought I spent his money the same way I would spend the money if I was the owner. Really, I cared about it. But then once you become owner, you go, damn, I did not even get close to that.
It's like a rental car.
You understand.
Oh yeah. You get a rental car that driving experience is very different than your own car. It's like, you can drive it like you're stolen, man. Like, I don't care.
Got insurance. I can just turn it in.
Yeah, very much the case.
But but it's because once you become owner, you have more responsibilities than what you realize. And they have things that you have to worry about that you didn't have to worry about. Is my bookkeeper doing her job or his job? Is the next person doing their job? Because even myself, I've been in business for, at the time, 19 years. And I had a bookkeeper that supposedly did some stuff and then gave me my books back and they hadn't done anything.
No.
Yeah. And
that's tricky. It's tricky in that case too, because that's an element of essentially delegation that you actually want to have as a business owner. You don't want to be doing all the bookkeeping and you don't want to be filing the sales. Like, you don't want to do all that stuff because of how much time it's going to take you from actually building the company. But it's tricky, right? Because if you're not in it every day, you hopefully assume, yes, this is going as it's supposed to. And that can be a rude awakening when you find out, oh, nope, this wasn't happening.
Yeah. So it took a little while to get that mess up. So the other thing is we moved from one location to the next location and they hadn't, so we forwarded our mail, but that's only last 6 months. And then IRS was sending us some stuff and went to the old location, which is not normally a big deal.
Yeah.
But that mail person, but just throwing it under the door, and they didn't rent that place for almost a year.
No.
Yeah. And so I'm just telling you things that you have no control over, that you do everything right.
Yeah.
Somebody who works for the public, for the post office, who doesn't care.
Yep.
Instead, it says certified. That means it has to be signed for. You don't throw it underneath the door.
Slide it under the door.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yeah, it is true.
And then I had the landlord call me. He's like, dude, you got a lot of stuff here and some stuff in the IRS. So that took us almost 8 months getting that all fixed up with the IRS. And they were understanding because they were like, what? Yeah. So they, but it just.
Well, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't say they wouldn't have to pay the penalties, but they were understanding. They knew I wouldn't.
Gave you a little extra time to get the check in.
Yeah, I was not trying to hide it, but so there's stuff that you are like, okay, I'm doing everything I possibly can. You can't handle everything yourself. You have to delegate. You have to get the right people in place. I'm in California. Our problem is we can't hire contract people at all, because in California they're considered employees first. Period. Right. So if I hire a contract, they have to be out of state. So all my VAs, all my stuff is out of the state, because there's no way I could have them in the state.
So there's like no 1099 classification, just
there is, but in California they consider your employee first. There's certain like real estate agents are 1099. In the mortgage industry, everybody is a W-2 wage employee. Period. No matter how much money they're making. So what we do is everybody has their own little corporation in your company.
Gotcha.
And you pay all the little corporations instead of paying so that they can do so. I mean, and I learned that so long ago, even before it was illegal, because we didn't want to be responsible for the W-2 of somebody. You know what I mean? You're
right.
And then go, here's your 1099. What I owe? How much? Yeah, you didn't.
Money.
Yeah. So I mean, so there's problems with that in California, where you're hired a contractor and then they go, no, you owe all the back taxes and everything else for them because they're really an employee. So,
wow, that's amazing. I knew there was some deal. I didn't realize that was kind of the resolved legal status with California. I knew there was a deal with Uber years ago where that was kind of a stir, like, hey, these are all contractors and you're not recognizing them as employees.
The gig economy thing kind of really passed, but because it was totally different. But everything else is, it's because I was telling some other, and that's why there's a lot of mortgage companies who won't hire people from California when they're from a different state and they do a lot of volume, because they don't want to deal with that W-2 thing.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting. This is kind of just my funny little quirk, but when I started the company, most of my help was 1099 at that point. It was months before we actually started bringing on formal W-2 employees. And I realized real quickly, I was like, hey, the reason that this is set up this way to get you from having 1099s to very quickly, no, these all need to be W-2s if they're doing the same kind of work, if they're not specialty, whatever, is because that's more tax revenue for the state. And it's like, oh, this is a very reasonable progression for them. They just don't want you having a boatload of people running around you're paying cash to or writing checks out. So yeah, it's understandable.
They want their tax money. Yeah.
The state wants its money.
Yeah. And I mean, if they're true contract, you don't control their hours, you don't control anything. They just have to go, you clean this house, whatever that is. If they're true contract, it should be okay. But the problem is people don't, it's just, and I don't want to deal with that. So,
yep. Yeah, I get it.
But I mean, I had it, and there's nothing worse than California tax rates, everything else. But I like the sunshine too well.
Sure. Oh, were you from there originally?
I mean, I'm here in California right now, Modesto, California.
Yeah, but I mean, is that where you were born and raised?
I was born in Burlingame, and then which is here in the Bay Area, but we lived in Colorado. The first 12 years of my life was in Colorado.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've always been out west.
Yeah, well, and then I came back here when I was 12, but I didn't come back to Modesto. I was in Turlock, where my grandparents had a dairy and all this stuff. And then I left in the Navy and said I would never frickin' be back. And then 20 years ago, I was back.
So, there you are.
So never say you're never going to go somewhere, because you will go there because you said never.
It's bound to happen.
Now, you said you're in
Lexington, Kentucky. Yeah.
And so how's growing? So where's the company now? What's the future look like?
Yeah. So company has been in a good spot for really the last 2.5 years. It's more or less been on autopilot. I've got a really great management system. Things have hummed along really well. It hasn't grown very much in the last couple of years because I started developing some other business projects. I have other things I'm doing on the side and growing. And actually in more recent weeks, I decided to, and I'm right now in the process of building out a new sales team so we can actually create some more expansion capabilities that aren't going to directly require just me to drive the growth. So that's the new, I guess, stage of development that I'm in right now. And so I'm pretty excited about it. I have, well, as a business owner, you're always in sales all the time. So I like that aspect of building a business. And so this is going to be a first time for me of actually coaching people through and teaching them how to sell our processes and our systems, which is really fun. It's kind of a neat thing, but it's the needed next step because I have too many things, even just beyond with my family life. I've got a lot going on there, but other projects now that I realize I'm at the limit of where I can personally grow the company unless I tune everything else out for about a year. And so I'm trying to create a system where I can duplicate my efforts through multiple other people to keep that funnel active. So it's a pretty exciting spot that I'm in right now. Very, very new. And I think within the goal, the projection is to get us in a place in about a 3-year time frame. If everything goes on the lower end of our projections where we have 4x the company, and it sounds kind of ridiculous, but our numbers are actually fairly conservative. So I'm pretty excited for that. And then at that point, I will actually be happy to put the company on the market and sell it so that I can become fully divested in my other interests as well. So yeah, that's the current outlook.
So the other interests is before we get there.
Yep.
Are you planning on franchising this at all, or?
No, that's not in the works, at least right now. It's a very regional company, greater Lexington area. So we're like in a maybe 60-mile radius of our center. But yeah, franchising is not something I have in the projections. I'm not really looking to do that.
I'm just asking because that's how, that's how you can grow companies.
Yes.
But
yeah, you
have to be in part. And I mean, how big's the area you're in? How many hundreds of thousands of people?
Greater Lexington is 300-ish, 330,000 maybe, I think. The greater metropolitan scope. So yeah.
About what? 40,000 homes. How many businesses?
I don't know what the business count is. We're in terms of like the overall category, but part of what helps Lexington and in my space particularly is that we have a very, very healthy industry sector. So here in Lexington, and then also in neighboring Georgetown and Winchester, which is all in that metropolitan circle, we have a lot of manufacturing and production that takes place for the city of our size. And then even in northern Kentucky, right south of Cincinnati, there's a lot of manufacturing up there as well. So it's just a very prime situation in terms of where our target market is, which is corporate clients that have manufacturing facilities. We have just a lot of it right here for a city of its relatively small stature. So it's kind of nice little.
That's unusual. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Hits all the right boxes for us.
And plus the fact that you found out who your perfect client is, or what other people call it avatar, because you really need to know who that is. Otherwise you're wasting your time.
Oh yeah. And I think I did initially, it was really going from residential to commercial when I did map that. I don't know if you're familiar with the EOS system. There's a book called Traction, Gino Wickman. He's kind of the forefather of that system, but I read his book. It was referred to me, and that you can do the whole system, the whole project, get a consultant, which is really great. But for what I was doing, I just read the book and went through the steps. And it was all of those pieces of mapping out what is your company really about, and who do you want your client to be? And can you recognize those clients in the marketplace? So you might think, oh, I have 100 potential clients out there, but are they actually in your periphery? And it's like, well, no, if you narrow it down, you might actually have 30 real actual clients that you really, really want. And the other 70 are probably they don't hurt, but they're really not your target market. And so Traction does a very, very good job of very clearly helping you delineate what that looks like. And that was pivotal for us as we made this transition, because even in commercial cleaning, that can mean a lot of things. And one thing that we don't do is retail spaces. Like we're not cleaning storefronts, we're not cleaning banks, we're not doing any of that a lot of other commercial companies typically would chase, because they're easier to get, but they're also much, much lower margin contracts. And so it just helped me find what the differences are and what levers we needed to pull to get in higher margin, better retaining, longer term contracts. So.
No, I think it's very important what you did, because people don't realize just because I split my mortgage company into 3 different companies.
Okay.
3 different clients.
Yeah.
And so when they come to my website, I'm talking to them.
Yeah.
That one person instead of talking to, there's 3 things I focus on: veterans, business owners, and reverse mortgages. Well, those are all 3 different.
Okay.
To if you have one website like a lot of mortgage company has, they come, we can do this, and this, but you're not talking to them. You have to.
Yeah.
When I first got in the business years and years ago, that company was specialized, and I didn't really understand why that was at the time, even though I had my MBA at the time. But I always tell people, you have to find out who your perfect client is. You can still take other business, but you're only sending the message to who your perfect client is so they can hear.
Right.
And you can still hey, can you take care of my friend? Yeah, no problem.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's not what I'm saying. I didn't say turn away business, but you're speaking to the right people who needs to speak to hear it.
Exactly. You're purposefully growing into the market that you want. And there may be extra people on the perimeter that come to you, and those are great. Like, those are bonuses, but your investment of time, when you're messaging, like you're saying, that should be very, very purposeful.
I totally agree.
It's good.
I appreciate you being on the show today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man.
How do people find you? Do you want them to find you?
Yeah. I'm not too much of a hermit. I love to connect with people. LinkedIn is probably the best way to do it. And Aram Street, there aren't, I think, too many of us on there, so I'm pretty easy to find. So if you find an Aram Street in Lexington, I am the one and only.
And if you're listening to this, that's ARAMSTREET.
Got it. That'd be a great place to connect. Love to meet you there.
I appreciate being here today. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thanks, Ed. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Inner Edison Podcast. A huge thanks to Aram Street for sharing his unique entrepreneurial journey from household management to building a specialized cleaning company. If you want to connect with Aram, visit him on LinkedIn. Don't forget, embrace those setbacks. They might just spark your next big idea. Until next time, keep pushing forward.